D.C.
Good morning.
Thank you for being back here. I want to know why the gag order was lifted. Was that
because it was the right thing to do?
Right. Department of Justice, Senator Grassley, encouraged by the president. What was it, or all three?
Well, I don't know the behind the scenes. I know that I spoke to an FBI lawyer who was quite professional, and we had a very good dialogue, and we worked out a process for it to be released.
Okay, so he can now speak with investigators on the Hill, correct? And that will happen on the Senate side and the House side. What is he going to tell them?
Well, I'm not going to go into that now, because now the proper process now is for him to get all his information together, for me to work with him for a few days to be sure it's organized and we get it very, so it's structured and people can understand what we're saying. And then I'm sure he will be interviewed by staff. He's not going to appear immediately in front of the click light.
So here's what I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out what he knows that would lend the credibility of the claim of corruption about this deal 7, 8 years ago.
Oh, well, there's no question that the Russian company was corrupt. He's got all the bribes, and those are recorded, and those are put into an indictment in 2014. That's not an issue. What he can do is, because we have on the record quid pro quo with the Clintons being paid, Bill Clinton being paid $500,000 by Russian people who were interested in the Iranian one deal going big. And we have the Clinton Foundation getting tens of millions of dollars from the same people involved in the deal. So you've got it right there, the quid pro quo. Now my client can put some meat on those bones and tell you what the Russians were saying during that time about how they were spending money.
Is any of this illegal? I know it sounds nefarious, but is it against the law?
What, to pay bribes and kickbacks? Yeah. Yes, it certainly is. There was an indictment based on that. Now the other thing that's against the law is the quid pro quo of whether the Clintons benefited, and we know that they did. And that would be up for a jury to look at it and say, well, was there evil intent? You've got a trial going on with Senator Menendez right now. It's the same kind of case.
When you talk about this gag order being lifted, I know Democrats are saying since the president got involved, apparently, that it's now political anyway, and so you have to consider that. What would you say to that claim?
Well, I know it's Adam Schiff that's doing it, who's been babbling about that. Well, I think he ought to go back and read the Constitution. The Attorney General reports to the President of the United States, who is then the Chief Executive Officer of over law enforcement in the United States. I hope the President got involved in this. I mean, bravo to him, because it's unlike President Obama, who thought it was just okay to threaten a witness who wanted to give information about corruption.
The threaten is pretty much a headline over the past 24 hours. Can you explain to our audience why your client, you believe, is threatened, and why would they try and keep him quiet, do you believe? If that is the case.
He filed a civil lawsuit to get back the money that he had paid in these bribes out of his own pocket, but he did it all under the control of the FBI. He did it at their direction. And they told him they would make him whole, and he didn't get the money back. And so he needed the money, and so he filed a civil lawsuit long after the criminal case was over. And his then lawyer, it was not me, was called by Justice Department lawyers and a lawyer from the working for Rod Rosenstein, and told that if he did not dismiss his case, then his reputation and liberty were in jeopardy. And you know what? I would have recommended that he dismiss the case given that.
Apparently back in 2009, 2010, people in Washington knew about this deal going down, and one of them was Peter King, the congressman from New York. He was with us yesterday and issued the following statement about what he remembers 8 years ago about this.
Back in 2010, I sent a letter to the Secretary of the Treasury saying I was opposed to this uranium deal. I had no idea there was corruption. I just thought it made no sense to be giving 20% of our uranium supply to a Russian government-owned company. I was assured that all the investigation was being done properly. Well, if the FBI told them, Secretary of the Treasury, the Secretary of State, told the President, told any of them that all this corruption, this bribery, this conspiring, this influence peddling was going on, how could they have possibly gone ahead and awarded this contract?
You heard the key sentence in there, it made no sense.
Yeah, on its own, it made no sense.
How many people knew about this in 2010?
Well, the people, most of the Obama cabinet knew about it because they had to vote on it. That's the board, CFIUS, that approves such a transaction because it had to be approved by the U.S. government. Hillary Clinton sat on that board. Eric Holder sat on that board, and my client was being told during this time that the Attorney General and the White House, the head of the FBI, were being briefed on his case and his work and his corruption. So, you know, all of the key people certainly knew about it. And why didn't it go anywhere back then, Bill? Well, you know what? ABC hasn't called me, CBS hasn't called me, NBC hasn't called me. We have a newspaper here in Washington called The Washington Post. Its motto is "Democracy dies in darkness." It hasn't called me.
Victoria Tenzing, thank you for your time. We'll wait the next chapter in this and see what comes of it. Thank you for being here today in Washington.
Sure.